Think about this. You are a sports superstar. Everyone knows your name. In your first year, you brought in 170% more fans to watch the game. You help your league make a lot of money. But guess what? You still get paid $50,000 less than a car wash manager at BS. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about bias. I enjoy a good car wash and a tasty brisket sandwich just like anyone else. But when one person is changing an entire sports league, their pay should make sense, right? This is what's happening to Caitlin Clark this year. She'll earn about $78,000 playing for the Indiana Fever. Yes, she has sponsorships, so she's not struggling for money. But her agent's words about her salary have started a big discussion. People are now questioning how much she really means to the WNBA, and if the league can ever pay her what she truly deserves. Now, everyone is talking about Caitlin and trying to figure out how much she's really worth. Don't worry, I'll break it all down in this video because I did the math, and the numbers are crazy. But here's the real question. Even if the WNBA could pay Caitlin what she truly deserves, would they? With so many people, media, former players, and even fans trying to downplay Caitlin's impact, it really makes you think. Big brands like Nike, other players, and even team owners keep saying the league's success isn't just about one person. But here's the big question. Will Caitlin, the main reason the WNBA is becoming more popular, ever get the pay she truly deserves? She's helping every WNBA player make more money, yet she gets little credit for it. I'm going to break it all down, and by the end of this video, you'll have an even bigger appreciation for what Caitlin is doing. It's not just about her skills. She's thinking ahead and seeing the bigger picture. And when you see the numbers, you'll understand why. They are absolutely shocking. But before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know. How much do you think Caitlin should be paid? I'm curious to see if my math matches what you all think. So, Caitlin Clark's agent, Erin Kane, recently gave an interview that got everyone talking about how women are paid in sports, especially Caitlin. She said, "Will Caitlin Clark ever be paid by the WNBA what she's really worth? I think that's possible." At first, that sounds like the last thing you'd want your agent to say. Caitlin is only about to start her second season, and already her agent is saying she might never be paid what she truly deserves. But wait, there's more to this story. She also said that Caitlin should be rewarded for how much money she's brought to the league, and that all WNBA players should be paid more. Now, of course, she has to say that last part because she represents other players too, but in the end, that also helps Caitlin. I'll explain why in a bit, but I think we can all agree. Caitlin's current salary is just plain unfair. Caitlin Clark will make about $78,000 this season. You don't need to be a sports expert or a math genius to see that this is nowhere near what she really deserves. But that brings up an important question. How much is Caitlin Clark actually worth? To figure that out, let's take a step back. The people running the league and former players who want credit for its recent success won't say it out loud, but the WNBA was struggling before Caitlin Clark showed up. And that's putting it nicely. It was losing a ton of money. Since 1996, the league has lost more than $10 million every year. That's almost 30 years of losing cash. The only reason the WNBA stayed alive was because the NBA kept it going. The NBA owns 60% of the league and has poured in even more money through team owners. Even NBA Commissioner Adam Silver had to admit that the WNBA hasn't made any money for NBA owners. Investors are starting to wonder if they'll ever see a profit. It's kind of like having a kid who stays in college for 7 years. At some point, you just want them to stop wasting time and start making money. The league was in trouble. They needed someone who could grab attention, fill up arenas, and make people actually care. They needed a superstar so big that she could prove all the doubters wrong. The ones who said the WNBA would never survive on its own. And then, everything changed. Then came Caitlin Clark, the human highlight reel. She wasn't just a great player. She was breaking records and leaving fans in awe every single game. Suddenly, people who had never cared about women's basketball before were watching, just to see what she would do next. Her rookie season wasn't just impressive. It changed everything. She didn't just win Rookie of the Year. She helped transform the entire league. Imagine this. The Indiana Fever, a team that used to be at the bottom of the WNBA, suddenly made it to the playoffs. It was a total turnaround, like a real-life rags-to-riches story. And that was just the start of Caitlin Clark's impact. When she joined, TV ratings exploded, up by a crazy 170%. The 2024 season became the most watched in WNBA history. And get this, Clark's team alone made up 45% of the league's total broadcast value. Now let's talk merchandise. Caitlin Clark's impact on sales has been unbelievable. During the 2024 season, WNBA merchandise sales shot up by 450%. And no, that's not a mistake. 450%. It's like everything Caitlin touched turned to gold. She didn't just help sell tickets, she made jerseys, hats, and everything else fly off the shelves. Her impact is everywhere in the WNBA. It's like she flipped a switch, taking the league from something people barely noticed to something everyone is talking about. I don't love using this quote, but it fits perfectly. There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. That's exactly what Caitlin Clark did. In just 1 year, she accomplished what thousands of players couldn't in decades. She made the WNBA mainstream and marketable. So you'd think the WNBA would be throwing huge money her way, right? You'd assume they'd be doing everything they can to reward the player who's changing their league. Well, not so fast. The WNBA's salary rules are like a tight straitjacket. They hold players back and keep their earnings low. Right now, the highest paid players in the league make around $250,000. But if you're a rookie, your salary is way lower. The Indiana Fever signed Caitlin to a rookie max contract, which paid her just $6,550 in 2024. Now let's put this into perspective. The average NBA salary is nearly $1 million, and rookies sign contracts worth millions. Yes, the NBA makes a lot more money, but there's another big problem in the WNBA: revenue sharing. Since 2019, the WNBA's revenue has doubled, jumping from $12 million to $200 million. That should mean bigger paychecks for players, right? Wrong. Because of the WNBA's current revenue sharing model, players only get 9.3% of total league revenue. Meanwhile, NBA, NFL, and NHL players get between 48% and 51%. It's like the WNBA is handing out crumbs while other leagues are serving the whole bakery. But that's about to change. The WNBA is getting ready for a huge media rights deal in 2026, and it's a game changer. The league could make $2.2 billion over 11 years. Yes, billion. Right now, they only make $60 million per year, so this would be a massive jump. It could completely change women's basketball. Because of this, the WNBA Players Union has already opted out of their current contract. They want better salaries and fair revenue sharing for all players. But here's the catch. This could lead to some tough negotiations. If things don't get better by the end of the 2025 season, there's even a chance of a work stoppage. Experts are talking about this too. Andrew Zimbalist, a sports economist, says WNBA players should get 50% of the league's revenue. That's a big jump from what they get now, but with the league growing so fast, it makes sense. So yes, WNBA players are about to get a big raise. But even with these changes, will Caitlin get paid what she's really worth to the league? This is where the numbers get crazy, and every WNBA player should realize just how much Caitlin is helping them. Caitlin joined the league, and viewership shot up by 170%. That means almost 3 times more people started watching. And here's the wild part. 45% of the WNBA's broadcast value came from games featuring Caitlin's team, the Fever. Before she arrived, nobody thought of the Fever as a must-watch team. So, you can't say this was normal or expected. That's one player creating almost half of the league's value. And if that wasn't enough, estimates say Caitlin was behind 27% of the WNBA's entire economy in 2024. Then there's the new media rights deal, which is worth more than 3 times their current one. Now, some people might not want to give Caitlin all the credit, because, well, people love to argue. But there's no denying that her impact on the league's economy and broadcast value played a huge role in what the WNBA was able to negotiate. So what is Caitlin actually worth? Let's start here. The total salary cap for all WNBA teams combined is $19.6 million. Since Caitlin brought in about 27% of the league's revenue, she should get at least 27% of that cap. That would mean she should be making $5.2 million per year, at the very least. But let's be honest, Caitlin is worth way more. She's responsible for nearly half of the WNBA's broadcast value, which likely helped the league secure $140 million more per year in media rights. So, based on that, you could argue she's worth $10 million a year, or even more, under the current CBA. There are about 140 other players in the WNBA. Even if Caitlin were paid a very conservative $5.2 million per year, she'd still be making over 50 times more than the average WNBA player under the current cap. And remember, that's likely way less than what she's actually worth. This is exactly why Caitlin will never be paid what she truly deserves by the WNBA. Yes, there will always be a salary cap, but that's not the real issue. The real problem? Optics. Here's the thing. When one player is way more popular than everyone else, even if everyone knows it, you still can't just pay them 50 to 100 times more than the rest. Why? Because if the WNBA did that, they'd be admitting to the world that their league is basically a one-trick pony, that only one player really matters. And I know some of you are probably yelling, but Caitlin is the only player people care about. I hear you. I just showed you the numbers. Her impact is undeniable. I know some people won't like hearing this, but a sports league is like an ecosystem. Yes, Caitlin is the biggest star, but you can't make it seem like the league is all about just one person. You can't have one player making millions while everyone else earns almost nothing. The league needs to keep salaries fair and balanced, so it can afford to bring in and keep great players. And that last part is really important, because Caitlin only matters if she's playing against the best players in the world on the biggest stage. Does anyone care that Kennedy Carter is scoring 50 points in the China League? Number why? Because the competition isn't as good as the WNBA. For a league to grow, there has to be real competition. And that only happens when you have top talent. But here's the problem. The WNBA can't keep great players if they don't pay them fairly based on what teams can afford. And then there's another big issue. From an investment standpoint, it's risky to put all your focus on just one player. I 100% believe the WNBA should put Caitlin in the spotlight as much as possible. But at the same time, they also need to promote other players, using the attention she's brought to the league. They need to share the spotlight, because building a league around just one player is a huge risk. Think about it. What if Caitlin gets injured and has to miss a whole season? If the WNBA put all their marketing into just her, what happens then? Right now, they have to make sure that some of Caitlin's star power helps other players shine too. It's a tricky balance, but it's necessary. Sometimes it feels unfair, but there's really no other option. Look at Nike, State Farm, and other companies that sponsor Caitlin Clark. She's a huge star, but she can't be their entire marketing plan. Sure, Nike has made some questionable choices that have left Caitlin's fans confused, but at the end of the day, their brand is bigger than just one player. And here's the thing. Big brands all think the same way. That's why Caitlin sees the world the same way when it comes to how she should be paid. Unlike many other WNBA players, Caitlin knows she can't count on the league to pay her what she's really worth. She has to think bigger. That means huge sponsorship deals, or maybe even owning a sports team in the future. That's where she'll make her real money. No matter how much she earns in the WNBA, it will always be small compared to her other income. But here's the key. The success of the WNBA and her performance in the league are what make it possible for her to cash in off the court. That's why the WNBA can't and won't pay Caitlin what she's really worth. And she knows that. She'll take the biggest contract allowed under the salary cap, but she won't ask for more because she sees the bigger picture. Caitlin understands that she's the one saving a league that has struggled for nearly 30 years to survive on its own. She didn't step into a league that could pay her what she deserves. But here's what makes her different. LeBron, Steph, Luka, and Nikola all joined the NBA, a league that was already huge before they arrived. Caitlin? She stands far above her competition, and that makes her one of the most marketable athletes in the world. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but in the end, Caitlin will be just fine financially, as long as she keeps lifting the WNBA. Even if the league never pays her what she's worth, she'll still win in the long run. If you're still here, drop an emoji in the comments to let me know. Thanks for watching. See you next time.